Welcome to Inside the Castle, the podcast that goes behind castle doors to have real conversations with real people about solving the nation's toughest challenges. I'm one of your hosts today, Aaron Schneider.
And I'm Angie Fryermuth.
In this episode, we're talking to John Sobiak, Shauna Rushing, and Danielle Lennox about the Corps Critical Incident Stress Management Program, CISMS. So before we jump into our topic, Angie, I know that I've heard of CISMS before. I've worked with John, and normally my exposure to CISMS is, need John on a project. Next thing you know, something bad happens somewhere and John deploys. So he's gone for a week or so, or maybe longer to help after something. But wondering if you've had any exposure to CISMS.
Same here. I know that Jonathan's given great training and everything like that, but not a whole lot of exposure to that.
So other than knowing that, CISM seems to kick in after something bad has happened, I really don't know much about it. So I really want to thank all of our guests for being here today and talking about this very important program for the Corps of Engineers and for our staff.
Pumped to be here. Thanks for having us.
Excited to contribute. Thank you.
The opportunity to share a little bit more about the program.
So being part of the CISM program isn't necessarily your only role within the Corps. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your main role at the Corps, and then how you came to be involved with the program? So we'll go ahead and start with you, Danielle.
Okay. So I am currently a paralegal specialist. I've been with the Corps a little over 5 years. And I work out of the Los Angeles district. However, I am out of an area office in Arizona that covers Arizona and Nevada. And I joined the CISM program 2 years ago with Shauna. I became involved after seeing a suicide awareness training, and at which point it was talking about the CISM program. And I was like, why have I not heard of this before? So I kind of wanted to get more involved and learn more about it at that point, and I sent in some interests, and I was told that they were full up and they had no space for new CISM people. And then about a year later, I heard back and they said, "Hey, we want you to submit your application." So that's when I got involved.
And how about you, Jonathan?
Yeah, good morning, folks. My name is John Sobiak. I'm the Deputy Chief of Regional Planning, Environmental Division North. It's RPED North. We have about 65 employees, 65 to 70 employees that we're regional, so we're across 3 districts, St. Louis, Rock Island, St. Paul, biologists, archaeologists, cartographers, economists, etc. And I'm also the environmental compliance officer for the St. Paul district. I got into CISM about 12 years ago, and that's because Kelly Phillips, park rangers, transferred from Rock Island to the St. Paul district, and she brought it with her. At that time, St. Paul district didn't have a CISM person, and I'm like, this is really cool. This opportunity to help people, I'm in. Let's do this. So she kind of got me started. I've been doing it ever since, and I love it. It's been a great experience, so I really appreciate that opportunity. Her and I together kind of built the program in St. Paul larger to what it is today, with three of us involved in St. Paul.
And Shauna, how about you?
Hello, I'm Shauna Rushing, and I actually started with the Corps at a Lake Project office, and I accepted a promotion recently. Now I am working in resource management, so I'm a financial management support specialist. I actually came to CISM via working in a local law enforcement agency. I worked administratively at a sheriff's office and also at a college police department, and I saw the benefit that it had to all of the people that needed it, not only to express, things about good times, but also hard times. And just, it was something that I had on my resume when I came to the Corps, and my lake manager saw that and he said, "Hey, we have a CISM program." So I wasn't even off probation or through my first 30 days when I already had my application in. And same as Danielle, it was like, we'd have a little bit of a holding pattern, but thanks for putting in your application, and when we have an opening, then we'll go ahead and get you in. So that's how I came to CISM.
Great, thank you. I can see the excitement in all of you about this, so it's clearly an important program. But before we talk about kind of what you guys all do or what you respond to, could you just talk generally about what is the role as a CISM peer counselor?
Yeah, okay, I can start. There's a lot of roles. There's a lot of, I mean, we obviously have, when we have a traumatic event or a big event that impacts some of our staff at the Corps, we get reached out to, or the commander gets reached out to send a CISM team. So that could be anything from drowning at a park or make a suicide or such. So we have a team go out and speak to our folks. We focus on our people, the Corps people, when we do this, and make sure they're, and basically listen. We present to them in a group, and then we also do one-on-ones, and just we're there to listen and advise and provide them resources to get help if they need it. And also a bigger piece, or not, I don't say bigger, but another great piece about it is the longer we do it, the more we get known, and people just reach out to us when they have problems. I mean, it could be a mental health issue, and we're the ear for them. A lot of times it's just listening and providing them guidance, a trusted ear, I guess, if you will, and help them feel good about themselves so they can continue to perform their duties at the Corps. I mean, that's kind of my biggest reward from this is being able to do that and just being available for them.
Well, we appreciate all of you and the role that you serve. This is a very important program. And so can you talk a little bit about why it's so important and the actual goals of the program?
So CISM is important because it's in the moments. Most of us in moments, we just don't realize that we're overwhelmed. We may not realize that, we're struggling. There's a lot of signs and symptoms that'll show up way before someone realizes how stressed they are. And so CISM really gives an opportunity for people that are trained to go into groups after something happens that would normally cause a stress response. And we take the opportunity to train people on what being too stressed looks like. And that way they can see those signs and symptoms. They can see them in themselves. They might see it in their coworkers. They have that opportunity to go, hey, are you okay? And know that, be able to help with that. I think the goal with CISM is really about teaching people to see the signs and symptoms, and again, in themselves or in others, and be able to speak up either on their own behalf or maybe on the behalf of someone else on their team, and showing up for each other. And CISM shows people what that might look like. Sometimes people aren't sure how to approach it, especially in a work environment. And so we kind of model that for our USACE team members and show them what, how we can do our USACE mission and still focus on that first priority of our people.
Yeah, and oftentimes by doing that, we're sharing with them that they're having a perfectly normal reaction to an abnormal situation. And it's good for people to feel, hey, I'm not alone. I can't tell you how many times I've heard, even in the past year or two, from people how good it feels that people actually care and understand what they're going through, whether it be a mental health crisis or panic attacks, anxiety, whatever. It feels good for them to know that, hey, they're not alone. This provides us the tools to share that, and it makes them feel good and makes them feel comfortable to work for us because it's a trusted environment.
And I think to add on to that as well is we don't call ourselves CISM counselors. We call ourselves CISM peer supporters because there's a big difference. Like, we are not licensed counselors. And what I have found to be important for CISM is not only the response to being called or seeing an emergency situation, but it's also the beginning preparedness. We do educational presentations. We do CISM one-on-one so that way supervisors know what it is that's available to their employees, so that way employees know what's available to them, because it isn't just the crisis management or the intervention or any of those things that we do. Those parts are very, very important and absolutely immeasurable. But the other part is letting Corps employees know what benefits are available to them, and not just EAP, because there are a numerous amount of benefits that many people that have been working with us for a number of years aren't even aware of. And when you present yourself as a CISM peer supporter, you have that opportunity to form those relationships with people, have those conversations, and you become a person of where they will refer or defer to you to answer some of those questions. Like, hey, I was wondering, I was thinking about selling my car. Is there legal advice or anything that we can have, as a core employee? And, we have the ability to be able to kind of steer them in that direction as well, because that's what we do, is just connectedness with people.
Yeah, it's definitely good to learn more about this program. You've talked about, responding to abnormal situations, and I heard you mention suicide, and I know there's been responses after natural disasters. What other aspects do you respond to? Do you respond to just like somebody in the district office that's, having a personal moment that's stressful for them for whatever reason? Or is it only big disasters? Like, where's the availability for this service?
We are available 24/7. And there's a difference of where you have a friendly conversation with someone. So say it's somebody that you normally meet around the water cooler, or somebody that you normally see, around the coffee pot. There becomes a difference that is noticeable, when they need something a little bit more than just a casual conversation or a casual check-in. But that's the benefit of having different people. We all come from different backgrounds. We all work in different offices. So there's availability for anybody to be partnered with someone. And if they don't want to talk to somebody at their own district, they have the option to reach out to somebody else, and we'll pair them with somebody that they feel comfortable chatting with.
Yeah, and to add to that, like Shauna said, 24/7, absolutely. We've all had calls, crazy hours. We'll take them. And then one thing I want to add to this too is we really support each other, because we do hear a lot. We do hear some heavy stuff sometimes. I mean, I'm just talking right now, I'm getting goosebumps because I'm feeling some of those things. So we rely on each other as well. And if we have a situation where maybe we don't have the right tools to deal with it, we will reach out to each other as well. I mean, even last week I reached out to Jonathan and said, hey man, I need a little help here. And so it's nice that we have a big team, to take care of each other, but also to sub in if it's a right fit for somebody. One thing I just want to add to it, when we have these interactions with folks, it is 100% confidential. It's between us and the individual. The few caveats with that, if someone we ask them if they are thinking about taking their life, we will elevate that, of course. And then if there's a situation where sexual violence or whatever, we will come forward with that as well. But for me, if I ever have to do that, that person knows before I actually do. I mean, I share that with them, but it is 100% confidential, and that's very important to us. It's very important to our program that people feel that they're protected and it's a safe space to come to.
So are there peers in every district? And then how does that work? And then how do people find you? Like, how do they know who you are and how to work with you in the process? Is it something that you guys observe if somebody's in trouble? Just curious on how that all works.
So we do have a SharePoint that's available through the headquarters hub, and each one of our districts actually will have it on the quick links. We are not quiet typically about sharing our programs, so most people know of us in our districts, or they know how to find us, or someone has heard of us in some way, shape, form, or another. And many of us have actually made it part of the new employee orientation separate from onboarding, so that way we have that opportunity to get that meet and greet in immediately with the brand new people that are coming in, so that they're starting with a solid foundation for self-care.
And yes, I do believe that every district now has a peer supporter. I'm not certain on that. There might be one or two that don't, but I know the goal is to have every district to have one. Like I said, St. Paul has 3. Others have probably more than that even. So there's been great support from all the way to the top for this program, and that's wonderful. I mean, it's awesome because it shows that people care.
Definitely. I'd say that we have our SharePoint, and the nice thing about the CISM program is we also are kind of organized into regions. We have our Western region and our Eastern region, and everybody can cover down. Even if someone's on the Eastern region and I made a connection with them and they want to reach out, they can still call me, even though technically I fall under Western region. There's not a lot of restrictions in that regards. all of us are uniquely different, and sometimes people will gravitate towards different individuals, and we're there for them regardless of where they're assigned, as long as they're a USACE employee. Within our districts, yeah, same thing. We're given a little bit of leeway. It's kind of our job to help spread the word. I know same thing with Shauna, in my district, after I joined the program, I, insisted that it became part of NEO. I get 10 minutes to tell all our new employees about the program. I really tried to connect with all of the supervisors this year during the personal readiness training, which is meets the Army's Big Army's requirement for suicide prevention and awareness. We're really working on getting the word out so people are aware of the program, they know what it can do and how it can help their teams.
I was just going to say that, like adding on to what we've all said as well, we have the ability to be able to deploy worldwide, right? So that's another thing for supervisors, peers, and everyone else to recognize, is that we are divided, by region of Eastern and Western, but the Corps has areas across the world, and we are able to deploy to any location that it is that we're needed.
Yeah, I want to jump real quick on that personal readiness training, because I echo that. In the past, I think a lot of us have already done those trainings for other divisions, but this year it was kind of an ask that we do it. So that was a huge, awesome thing to have us do that for our folks, because I mean, in the past, we have a lot of supervisors that aren't comfortable with the subject, having to train their folks. That's not helpful. I mean, you're putting them in a bad spot, putting their staff in a bad spot. So having us do that was awesome. And I've got such amazing feedback this year for us doing that. And we're getting better at it because we're getting more practice, right? But it's really a big deal. And I think it's going to pay huge rewards for the Corps.
Yeah, and it takes the burden off of the supervisor as well, because previously it used to be only the supervisors that were the ones that did the personal readiness training. So I think that having a CISM peer supporter be there and be the one to present it, again, it gives you an opportunity to have those side conversations and to really get to know the people, regardless of what district it is, if it's your own or if it's another one. It's very beneficial.
Yeah, this is really an amazing program, and I really like the layered approach that you guys have talked about here. Whereas, I know John well, so maybe I have something I want to talk about, but I don't want to talk to John about it. I could go to Danielle or one of the other people out there and talk to them in confidence. So that's a great tool to have at our disposal, and it makes me kind of wanted you guys to talk a little bit about the relationship with EAP and how this is different than the EAP program.
So the EAP program is a tool that we have in our toolbox to share with folks. Employee assistance program. It's unique. A lot of districts have different programs, but I know St. Paul, for example, has switched our program recently for the good. One of our roles is as a CISM person, is to identify if that program is working well for our folks. And if it's not, we got to figure that out. And Jonathan's position now actually helped me figure that out and get to a different program. So now St. Paul actually joined several other districts with the same company. EAP is professionals. It was mentioned earlier, I think by Shauna, that we are not therapists. We're peer supporters. Critical incident stress management peer supporters. We're not therapists. We're listeners. We're the ear. We're the energy. We try to bring some positivity to things, but we will lead them to EAP if we feel like that's the step that we need to take.
Yeah, and Jonathan actually manages our national EAP IDIQ. So the way that I always kind of word it with people is that we provide first aid for something, right? So you don't immediately, go to the extreme. You have to kind of build up to that level. So we are the ones that come in and provide that first aid in the moment. Whereas, CISM is for those that are experiencing high stress in a specific situation and possibly even, trauma in that moment. We are the EMTs basically when it comes to psychological. It's a difference, right? I mean, it's something that's abnormal. It's not something that is your normal day-to-day things. And usually it takes a little bit for somebody to be like, hey, I think I need something, or somebody that cares about them with their check-ins to just be like, hey, so-and-so's not doing so great. So CISM peer supporters are exactly that. Like, we are your coworkers, we are your peers. We work for the same agency. We may have some of the same complaints that'll put us on the same equal footing so that way we can start a conversation. And then if need be, then we go ahead and we pass it on. Each one of us comes into a situation with our own level of stuff. And so we take that stuff and figure out what it is that would best serve that person and give them the tools to be able to start unpacking their own stuff so that way they have the autonomy to best help themselves.
I have an analogy. It's right on line with what Jonathan and Shauna were saying. It reminds me of kind of when I was in the military. My son loves to tell people that I was a combat medic. I was not a combat medic, but I was given an additional duty of being a combat lifesaver. And so people are like, well, what's the difference? And well, I can give you an IV, and I can notice that you might be showing signs of heat exhaustion, or I can stop the bleeding in any emergency situation where we're trying to stop the bleeding. But we're not combat medics. And so as a CISM peer supporter, we're kind of the same thing. We're there to help you in that critical incident, to help de-escalate the situation, to try to help prevent it from escalating and getting worse. And then EAP is our tool belt. It's our combat medic. It's we need professionals. We need someone who knows how to do more. And so really we do work in tangent with EAP, not what we're calling them, but we can communicate with the employees and share with them, hey, you might benefit from reaching out to EAP and utilizing the services that are there for us as core employees. And so really we just try to help bridge that gap and encourage people to get that extra help that they may need when they need it.
And even once in a while, we might call EAP ourselves just to kind of test it and see, because I'm gonna tell you something really important here is a lot of times when people are going through hard stuff, a really big step for them is to reach out for help and actually call EAP. That's a huge leap, right? And if EAP fails them, that's crushing. It's not cool. So a lot of us will call EAP just kind of every once in a while to check in, or some of these hotlines say, hey, make sure it's working, because we don't want to give people advice that doesn't work, right? I mean, that's not cool. So a lot of us take it upon ourselves to do that as well. So that's an important piece of what we do.
John, you're absolutely right. And I've actually called EAP just to kind of do the same thing, and have found out that they have crisis counselors that are on 24 hours a day. So when you call EAP, if you are seeking counseling services, if you are in a position of where it is that you need something right then and there, it's a huge benefit, because you can say, like, I need to talk to a counselor. I need to talk to somebody right now. And a lot of times they won't even have to transfer you. It'll be the person that is answering the phone that immediately has those answers. And EAP just isn't, it's not just mental and behavioral health anymore. It's life services, right? So it's coordinations for support and education, and it covers your household under the new national contract. So it's not just the employee, and that's something to kind of think about as well, because I have children, they're all grown now, but it's something that it's good to know, again, that umbrella of how it is that USACE is taking care of that work-life balance, taking care of us as people, helping us take care of our families to the best of their ability. And it really is an immeasurable, it's just a gift, honestly. Like, I don't know what else to call it. I mean, it really is, there's no other word for it. It's huge.
Going back to the EMT analogy, we're all part of USACE, right? And there's only a limited number of you. So if I am an employee who is in the office, what is it that I can do, or what are some signs that I should know if somebody needs help and needs to talk to you?
Are you saying if you're a person that notices someone else is struggling, how to reach out to us?
Yep. So you're only one person, right? And you can't be everywhere all the time. So what does the staff need to know in order to help others that may be struggling? Because I personally had an adolescent that was going through this, and she was not in a spot to say, I need help. And some people are just stuck in a do loop, and they can't see that they need help. And so I think it's important for all of us to know the signs and how to help each other.
Yeah, see something, say something, do something. That's why I always tell people, and trust your gut. and reach out to one of us. It was mentioned earlier, we have a SharePoint site. We're on each district site, and we will reach out. We are busy, absolutely, right? We have our day job, but we will, if we cannot do it, we will reach out to each other and we'll find someone to help with it. And that's like our commitment to USACE. I mean, we take that very serious. One thing about CISM, once you're CISM, you're always CISM, right? But we do go through stuff ourselves. So we go through some icky times. And so there's times where people pause. And if we can't do it, because I mean, if we're drowning, we can't help someone drowning, right? So we're very good about that as well. But we will make a point to find somebody that can help. I mean, like I said this earlier, that's the coolest part of this thing. We have such a big team now because we are so supported by our supervisors, the colonels, that we have enough resources where we can find somebody. But yeah, I encourage people when I do the suicide prevention course that our people are their best advocate for each other, right? I mean, if you got an engineering group, they know each other better than anybody else. They work with each other every day. So if all of a sudden person X is acting different, say something to somebody, bring it up, because we'll be there. We'll be there to help.
One of the things I always put out to people during my trainings and things is sometimes we don't feel comfortable when we work with someone every day, and maybe we observe something, and things that you might observe is maybe they come into the office one day and they're just slumped down, like they're just not their normal self. People on other people's teams are the best people to notice when something's different. Things that are different are usually signs that there might be more going on. You know, maybe you find out they have elderly family member at home who's sick, or maybe they're going through some, marital problems. All of these things. I'm giggling to myself. Sorry. During the trainings that I do for personal readiness, I always point out that working for USACE, we have a very intense, important, lot of eyes on mission. You know, not everyone knows who the Corps of Engineer is, but they pay attention to our projects. They know what we're doing, and it can be high stress. Most of us manage that stress fairly well, but heaven forbid we have a life and there's a little bit of extra straw on that back today. And so that's really where our team members can really come in. And if a team member is not comfortable approaching another team member, maybe they notice these things, maybe they ask, and that employee, again, this is someone they work with every day, doesn't really want to open up. That's okay. I've told everyone in my district, if you observe something and you have concerns about a team member, give me a call. Just say, hey, I'm worried about so-and-so. I witnessed this the other day. Maybe they were short-tempered and that was uncommon. Maybe it really, whatever you feel that you're going to be the best judge of what's not normal for that person. And you can call me and you can ask, and I will reach out to that person. If they go, who called you? Does it matter? Someone cares enough about you to have me check in on you. That's that confidentiality we talked about. You can tell me that an employee is struggling, and I'm not going to tell that you told. Same thing with that employee. If you call me and say, I'm concerned about this person, don't call me next week and go, did you talk to them? How are they doing? My response is going to be, you might want to ask if you're interested. It's 100% confidential, and that's on every front. A supervisor can call me and say, this person's job performance is going down. I'm worried about it. I don't really want to write them up. I'm more worried about them, but they're not really wanting to talk to me. I can reach out to that employee. And again, I'm not going to say it was the supervisor. I'm not going to say who it was. We're concerned about you. Do you want to talk about this? It might help. And there's where that, anybody can basically call CISM and say, can you help this team member? And we have that confidentiality where we can try to reach out and help them in whatever way we can.
And I'll add on to both of those excellent responses. And I would say that as just a human being going through normal life, each one of us knows the people that we work with, and each one of us has an opportunity to be that person to say, are you okay? I see you're going through something. I see that you have, been experiencing something that seems like it's really taking a toll on you. And I think that that's, a very, very big part of just, being listening and communicating that a lot of us don't necessarily feel comfortable always doing, because we have that, what are they going to say kind of that happens within us of where we're like, what if they say that they're going to hurt themselves? What if they say that they're thinking about getting divorced? What if they are experiencing depression? What if they say that's so big, I don't know what it is that I'm going to do with it? And what I would say to you is the same as each one of us has our own life experiences. Each one of us has an opportunity to listen to that person, because if they say what it is that's bothering them, if you take that opportunity to just be like, hey, are you okay? I care about you as another person. It doesn't matter if we know them on an intimate level, of where it's somebody that we go to lunch with or not. Like, we each are human beings. If you say, like, I care about you as a human being, if they open up the door and they share something with you, then that is giving you or them the opportunity to be able to seek the resources that they might need in order to be able to get the help that it is that they need. And we have a phone number that's 24/7. And if you want, I'll, like, share the phone number now. The phone number is 314-925-5250. I'll say it again, because I know usually I'd be like, oh, somebody just said something. They gave me a phone number and I don't have anything but this brick in my hand. It's 314-925-5250. And that will always be answered. We have an email if you don't want to call. Sometimes it's hard to call. Sometimes you dial that phone number and you don't want to have a conversation. Sometimes you're scared that you're going to break into tears. Sometimes you don't know what it is that you want to say. Sometimes we answer the phone and there's silence on the other end. And you're going to be met with, I'm here. That's the whole purpose of us being here, is the connectedness. And all of those calls are answered within 15 to 20 minutes, sometimes because we do have other regular jobs. Like, there are times that it may take us a little bit of time to be able to answer that call, but I guarantee you that call will be answered within 4 hours. Guaranteed. Does not matter. You email it, you call it at midnight, it's going to be answered. So we also have an email. And the email is super simple: CISM, CISM -VM, like voicemail, @usace.army.mil. So just, that to say that, like, the most important reason why it is each one of us chose to volunteer to become CISM peer supporters is because how much we value each human being for what it is that they have to offer just by being themselves. And we will support them however it is that we can, and give each one of them the tools to be able to continue to pass on the same connectedness.
I really want to thank all of you for stepping up and being a peer supporter. I think this is just really an amazing role within the Corps, and just listening to you talk today shows me how much you could help people. Like, I'd feel comfortable talking to you about any issues that I had. So really thank you for that. For other people and our listeners out there that want to apply to be a CISM peer supporter, how would they go about doing that?
So anybody can apply for the program. And anybody can apply for the program by...
While you're looking up that part, Sean, I'll talk.
Thanks, Sean.
Yeah, that's
I
fine.
was like, real life.
You can apply, and I'll speak for myself, but I'm guessing Sean and Danielle do the same thing. We're always recruiting. There's a lot of people that are good fits. I mean, one thing I really stress, I've canvassed a lot of people over the years in St. Paul District, Rock Island, and St. Louis District. And what I stress to them is, it's heavy. I mean, it can be heavy. So I really want to make sure they understand what it takes, and make sure they're up for it too, because it can be really hard sometimes. And we've all experienced some really hard ones, right? I mean, that's where even when I talk with them, I'm getting goosebumps. So that's how much I feel it. But it's important for us to convey that to people that want to do it, because there's a lot of people that want to do it, but I want to make sure it's right for them. So we're all available to them when they are interested, and it canvass the applications and everything else, but anybody can apply. And I encourage people all over the place. When I find someone, hey, you'd be good at this, I encourage you. Don't get discouraged. I think we heard earlier that you don't always get selected right away because of numbers, whatever, but keep trying, and anybody can apply. And I'll give it back to Shauna for the webpage.
Thank you. I appreciate
Yep.
that. Technical difficulties being what they are, right? So yeah,
Okay.
anybody can apply for the program, and selections are made by the senior leadership team. So the considerations and selections are going to be based off of what the need is, based off of what the geographical area is. And just like every other office, we too are constrained by budget, training capabilities, time, and things like that. So we typically hold trainings once a year. And we have about 50 people that will go to each. We have it actually separated by division right now. So like Eastern side, Western side, region, not division, my apologies. So yeah, through job changes, supervisory supports and things like that, we do lose a significant number of peers, but you are more than welcome if it feels like it's something that you would be interested in, like please apply. I'm sure that every single person who might consider it has a unique set of glimmer and a unique set of gifts that they can offer to the rest of their peers.
It is a process. It's almost like applying for another job. Yeah, there's a couple engineer forms. They do ask for 3 letters of reference, and our senior leadership team really does. They know what it takes to do this job, so they are screening us and making sure that we're going to be able to manage some of the various aspects of the job. It can be exhausting work, but it's also very rewarding. So if you have the drive and the passion for it, just like, both Shauna and Jonathan said, apply and it'll come together as it's meant to be.
And the application process is on the CISM portal. So it's about halfway down on the right-hand side, and it's labeled, "How can I help?" which is something that, we talk about as peer supporters often, like, how can I raise my hand? How can I help? So if you feel called, take the first step, raise your hand.
Thank you, John, Shauna, and Danielle for joining us today for this edition of Inside the Castle. We appreciate you and your insights. Until next time, be safe, be innovative, and take care of each other. Thanks for joining us for this Inside the Castle podcast. To provide your feedback, email us at cw.infrastructure.team@usace.army.mil. Stay tuned for additional Inside the Castle podcasts as we explore life inside the Corps and revolutionize civil works together.